Spring is here. And over the last month or so, I've seen an amazing change in our garden. Our kangaroo paws are glorious. Our mint is exploding. Our mulberry tree is growing mulberries. But when I step out into the garden and see these things, what does it tell me? Well, firstly, it reminds me to take an antihistamine tablet because my hay fever's been going nuts. But also, more importantly, as a Christian, it should lead me to be thankful to God for these obvious and really beautiful examples of what we call God's common grace. Over the coming months, I hope to be dipping into some big ideas of doctrine or church history and covering them in some short segments. Big ideas in little bites. And today we're looking at God's common grace. God's common grace can be summed up as his kindness and blessing that he pours out on all people and on creation itself. Jesus illustrates this beautifully in Matthew chapter 5. He says that God causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. This is the grace and blessing that God shows to everyone, not just the people he's saved. The things that we enjoy about our world, like the weather, the change of seasons, the way the plants grow, the beautiful beaches and mountains, things we might call the natural world, well, they're God's gift to everyone, aren't they? In fact, God shows this grace to all of creation. Jesus describes God as providing for the birds of the air and clothing the flowers of the field. Common grace is the kindness that God showers down on the world for everyone and everything. Now, common grace is different to God's saving grace. His saving grace is the grace he works in the hearts of his elect, his chosen, drawing them to come to him in faith, enabling them to put off sin, to live as disciples. That's God's saving grace, the grace that leads us to repent and to believe in Jesus too. God works his saving grace in the lives of the people he's chosen. But he also works his common grace in and through people too. Whenever we see good things happening in this broken and sinful world, it's an act of God's common grace. Let me give you some examples. When we see parents who aren't Christians, who don't have God's Spirit at work in them, showing genuine love to their children, that's an act of God's common grace. He enables parents to love their children, children to love their parents. The sin in their hearts, sin in all of our hearts, but God enables them to love and to show kindness. Or what about when we enjoy a book or a movie, whether or not they were produced by a Christian, that doesn't matter. These are parts of God's common grace to us. He enables people to have all kinds of skills and abilities to do all kinds of really amazing things. Think back to the teachers you loved at school. Think of the medicines that we take. Think of the food that we enjoy. And think about how the joy we get when we watch our favourite team or athletes doing their thing. This is evidence of God's common grace at work, even in a broken world. Even in a world that hates him. So why does this matter? Well, seeing God's common grace shows us more of his love. Because his common grace is an outpouring of his love to the world that he's made. It's a world that's in rebellion and it's in sin against him. And in God's justice, he could simply destroy and judge the world, but he doesn't yet. Instead, he continues to show kindness and blessing to a world that rejects him. God shows his love in this way. as a great big billboard, like a billboard in the sky, showing the world that he's near. Paul says in Acts chapter 17, verse 27, that God does this so that the world would seek him and perhaps reach out to him and find him, though he's not far from any one of us. Whenever you see the beautiful things in this world, whenever you enjoy your garden or the flowers or the food or whatever it is, this is a reminder to you of the incredible love of our incredible God, and it should lead us to thanks and praise.